Okay. We have a smaller crew tonight, but thank you everybody for coming. Welcome to our January 5th meeting of the school committee at 7, call to order at 7:02. We're going to do our regular session and then executive session after. We're going to start with the consent agenda. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Does anybody have any comments?
I had some updates to the minutes, but I already made those.
You made them with Lisa?
Well, I just put suggested.
Anything else? All right, so we will look at those suggestions. So we'll skip the minutes for now, but I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes.
Moved by Stacy. Second.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Amanda. All in favor? Great, thank you. So we're going to move you up so you can go first. So you're.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we don't have to wait through all of our really exciting information.
Awesome. Where would you like me?
You can sit right at the end of the table.
All right, awesome.
That
Thank
microphone
you.
is yours.
People get to jump when they bring something to eat for everybody, right? That's the way it works.
I don't know if you've met Taryn long before, but this is your third year? Taryn?
Second year.
Second year
Yes, nice to meet everyone.
at the high school.
Thank you.
For people who are watching at home, can you just introduce yourself again
Yes.
and let us know why you're here?
Yep. So my name's Taryn Ling. I am the high school business teacher here at Holliston High School. This is my second year here, and it's my 7th year in education with a background prior in business. So I'm so excited to be here. It's been great so far, and I'm excited to share with you about our DECA program tonight.
All right, take it away.
All right, so DECA. If you don't know what it is, I describe it as student council for business students, so to speak. But what it essentially is business students are competing at the district level, state level, and national level around a business project. So it can be anything from marketing, finance, hospitality, tourism, accounting, advertising, you name it, in the realm of business. And what I love about this program, it's actually my 7th year as an advisor. So I came to Holliston last year. I was really excited to start the program, and it's just been really exciting. So last year we did have 21 members. Due to COVID, we only had 8 actually compete, just with scheduling logistics. But with that said, we had 8 compete at districts last year, 4 go to states, which is in Boston, Mass. And then we did have 1 national qualifier, which for me as an advisor was very exciting in our first year. And Ellie did go, and my gracious friends at Neshoba Regional, where I came from, kind of took her under her wing, so she knew some people there. But with that said, this year we have 52 confirmed members. We started in the fall, and I had met with Dr. Kuska and the team and everyone, and just really excited to share that we were able to grow the program over 50% this year. So that was really exciting. I was like, it was awesome. So anywho, with that said, this year we have 3 students automatically going to the state competition, which is in Boston in March. That is an overnight competition. And then anyone who is competing next week in Worcester, Mass. For a district competition will proceed to the state competition, and then anyone who wins at states will proceed to the national competition. So going back to just DECA in general, students go up against other business students throughout the country, and they present their proposal. So here in Holliston, we this year have 3 written projects. If it makes sense, they're putting together a business paper and proposal. Everyone else is doing more of a role play situation, so it's a case study in which they are getting a situation, thinking on your feet. If I was sitting with you and you were my judge, I would get the situation, I would have to present it to you. So that's what a majority of our members are doing this year. So we have our competition next Thursday, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see who proceeds to the state competition. So I know we put in for submittal for approval for this. It is a fabulous program. I hear students, whether they're going into business or not, it's just transferable skills in general, communication skills, working with others, how to present yourself appropriately, just growing all those real world skills. That's my goal here at Holliston as the business teacher here, and just really having them be able to make those connections as well as they are networking with other high school students, not only within our state, but within the country. So it's just a really cool opportunity, and as I mentioned, it is my 7th year advising, technically speaking, so I have been going to these competitions prior to COVID, obviously. So I'm super excited for students to be able to have this opportunity to go to Boston. Does that make sense in a nutshell?
Sure does.
Without rambling on about the program.
Well,
Does
Tara,
anyone have any questions at all about that?
I'll just add, Tara,
Yeah.
because you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
I happen to be very familiar with DECA, and it is a great program.
Yeah.
I've been on the end as an administrator, supporting it in another district, and then my daughter happens to be a DECA advisor in Plymouth, so she finagled me into judge as well, so I got to see the kids up front judging, and they develop such poise and public speaking experience.
Yeah.
It just, not only is it good for them to hone their craft in the business sector, it's the public speaking part that I think it really develops so much, and these kids get the confidence that they really need. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love you add the confidence piece because a lot of times students feel they might be able to present or speak to the public, and then they have those fears. So this really just builds that confidence, and again, especially vision of a graduate here at Holliston, I think it complements a lot of those components, including innovative thinker, character, global citizen, communicator, a lot. So I'm just really excited I have the opportunity tonight to present this to all of you. I'm excited to grow the program here, and just mentioning too, with our national competition, it's just, again, a great opportunity for students to be able to expand their horizons, so to speak, and just have the opportunity to be able to grow themselves personally and preparing themselves for the next chapter.
Where are the nationals?
So nationals this year, how it works, just to go in a little bit more detail. So every year, districts is in January in Worcester, Mass, due to our district. We're in District 7 if you go to massdeca.org. And then every year, states, it's called ICDC, is in Boston, Mass. It's March 9th through 11th. And that's usually every year that weekend. It's 2 nights overnight. Thursday night is opening ceremony, Friday is competition, Saturday is the award ceremony. And then we'll come home Saturday. And then if students qualify, this year it is in Orlando, Florida. How DECA is built is every year it rotates over a 4-year rotation. So this year's Orlando. Next year, I believe, will be Nashville. Then it goes to Anaheim, California, and then Atlanta. I was going to say Atlanta, but Atlanta was last year, Atlanta, Georgia. So every 4 years, they have those rotations. It's held at their convention center. And then obviously with Disney being involved for 2 of those locations is very fun for the students as well. So costs are involved. We really encourage, or as a unit here at Holliston, encouraging the students to fundraise and whatnot, but usually that is expense-wise out of pocket for the students unless we can do some type of fundraising and that type of stuff. So last year, for example, was costly with airlines, so that's always kind of a variable cost in general. But I've heard from students and testimonials, even our 4 students from last year that were able to compete, how much it has changed them. And it's just really great to hear that from them personally and their growth.
Is nationals like during like a school vacation week or?
So it is technically this year, the last couple of years, it's April 22nd, I should have mentioned this, April 22nd to April 25th. So it's usually, no matter what, just so everyone knows, it's a minimum of 4 nights you have to stay at nationals. So DECA does have some rules involved with that. So we would fly down and then obviously fly home on the 5th day. The 4th night is the ceremony, so just depending on that. So the last few years, it has been that last weekend of April vacation, but students usually will miss anywhere from that Monday to Wednesday or Monday to Thursday coming off of April vacation. In my 6 or 7 year NASA experience, 1 year it was in May, but otherwise it has been that week after vacation. So it does impact, obviously, some schooling, but what's great about that is students get to come back and tell their experience and really be able to recruit and promote the program for others that might be interested.
Well, there's no guarantee that all 50 of them. end up
Well,
going
right,
to
so that's
the
another
nationals.
great point. So we have 47 actually competing next week, right? Some people are automatically going to state, so obviously it's a huge variable next week how many people will actually proceed to states. I'm hoping everyone does, but obviously there will probably be some fall off, and then from there, in my previous experience, I had years where there was only 4 students that qualified to go to nationals. Other years we brought 20. So year to year, it definitely just depends. So nationals is usually a variable, or it is a variable. Usually, though, you do have students that hopefully will qualify no matter what every year. So.
Any other questions? So what you're looking for from us is, to your point, not funding, it's the permission to go.
Yes, so for right now, it's permission to go. In past history, I shared with Dr. Kuska and Ms. Bottomley, and that usually I am paid for as an advisor and going from school funds, but otherwise, yes, for states, it is permission to go for the students in terms of going to the competition for all the competitions, so states and nationals.
I forget, did you put the number of chaperones?
It says 1 for each 15.
Yeah, so usually for districts next week, it's 1 to 15 ratio. States, I believe it might be a 1 to 10 ratio. We are staying overnight, so it
Yeah.
might be a little bit more. So just depending on that. So this year, what max it would probably be 4 of us going for chaperones. That's if everyone qualified. So
Yeah.
hopefully years to come it will grow, but usually that's the ratio.
I think it is 1 to
Yeah,
10. too.
for states, I think it's 1 to 10.
It doesn't mention in this one about nationals, though, so that's a separate field trip, right?
Yes.
They're each separate field trips, right? Okay.
Yes, so what happens is every year, everyone will go to districts, and then based on qualifying, based on their project. So writtens go automatically to states based on their category, if that makes sense, and numbers. So for district competition, it's the top 7 in every category get to go to the state qualifier, and then based on numbers at states, that will depend on who goes for nationals.
Okay.
And just to join
okay, so this is just-
we figured that we would present for states because we know that we're going to have students
Right.
going to states.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that one's the more time-sensitive,
Right.
pressing one. It also doesn't involve airfare or anything because
Right.
it's in Boston.
Right.
So we were excited to present this information, hopefully get approval for our students to do this. Once we have more information, we're interested in
Yes.
coming back for 2 reasons. One is to share hopefully the amazing
Yes.
successes.
Right. Yes.
And then also to kind of present the next step, because at that point we'll have a sense of how
More
many
numbers,
students may
yeah.
or may not be going to nationals, what the
Right.
cost is in those pieces, so we'll be able to better answer questions, which is why we're doing separately.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Do you want a motion to approve
I would love a motion, yeah.
overnight field trip, March 9th through 11th, for the Holliston High School DECA Club?
Second.
Moved by Stacy, seconded by Cynthia. All in favor?
Thank you.
So
Great.
exciting.
Exciting.
I can't
I'm
wait.
not smiling. But thank you very much for everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity, and again, to be here at Holliston. So it's very nice meeting everyone.
Yes,
And I have
you
not
too.
met
Good
you.
luck.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much for doing this.
I can't wait to report back how everyone
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing it.
Good
Good
luck.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do not have any student representatives tonight. Individual comments? Anybody have stuff to say?
Sure. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back. The Envisioning the Future Holliston group met last night. We have received some answers to our request for proposals for consultants, and so a smaller group of us, a subset, will be reviewing those next week, and then hopefully we will have a consultant signed on by the end of the month. We can really move through with our work.
Cool.
And the middle school, elementary as well, but middle school in particular, I know about. We're doing our readathon. We're jumping into a great book. We're excited about this. We have some really cool incentives and prizes for the homerooms. And so more to come to the teachers on Monday.
Great.
Well, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I do not have anyone for public comment. Keith, did you hear from anybody? Public comment?
Oh, nobody, no, sorry.
Okay, moving right along. Mr. McLeod, technology?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Good evening, everybody. Let me try to get hooked up wirelessly here. I think I'm tethered to the microphone, right? I forgot about that piece.
Yes.
I can't stand up. Okay.
Wow.
I got to work on that.
Right, couldn't you, you can unplug it
Like
right
Phil
around.
Donahue.
Yeah, exactly. Good.
Okay, welcome everybody. Good evening. Happy to report some technology items tonight, focusing on the alignment to the strategic plan, the new strategic plan. So that's going to be hopefully what you'll see throughout. So these are the three things I will dive into. The goals. Some of these are my own individual goals, but many of them are just goals in the strategic plan or initiatives, if you want to call them that align to technology. And it's mainly Arch 1 and Arch 3, but there's also Arch 4 you'll see at the end. And then diving into the capital and operating budget plan, I just want to provide a forecast for the group so that it's where I'm seeing we're going right now, short term and long term. And then I want to dive into data governance because there's a lot of questions about that. It's in the strategic plan under Arch 1, but people often ask me, like, what is that all about? So I'm going to take a deep dive into that for the group and for the audience so people are aware of that because it is super important. I'll share an example of what happened over the holiday too. So Arch 1, communication goals coming from the plan. These are things we're working on. One thing we know is that our website is still relatively new, but it has external sites that are not searchable. They're Google sites, basically. So they're not searchable. They don't meet all of our accessibility requirements. So we're identifying those external links. Again, when we launched the website, we had to get everything up and running and linkable. So now we're taking a deep dive and finding those external sites and targeting them for migration to the main platform, which has all of the accessibility and translations. So that's in the plan, and we're working on that. That's a 2-year process. This year, we're going to identify those, prioritize them, and start working on them likely over the summer. Tools, you've already seen, hopefully, as parents. Many of you were using a new tool called SMORE. Many school districts use it for newsletters. We've sent a central office newsletter. Some of the schools are starting to use it. We're still training schools on the product. But hopefully that's an improvement as far as readability and presentation of our newsletters. We're still using Bright Arrow. That's the one that's integrated with PowerSchool. That's the primary method of communication. I did share a link with the group today. There's going to be improvements in that user interface for us, possibly for the end users too. So we'll see. The CEO sent us one of those like New Year updates. So, and then social media, we have not started on this, but I know I'm working with Dr. Kusk on this. We're sort of changing platforms as far as communication. So we're going to move toward Instagram for communications from her office. We'll still keep Twitter and Facebook, but we're going to try to expand our presence there. We're not quite there yet, so we're still working on the strategy for that. So those are the Arch 1 initiatives coming out that relate to technology. Questions? I'm happy to take questions on slides, or we can wait till the end. Okay, teaching and learning. This is a big one, of course. probably the most important. So digital resources, we have, it's been a long time coming, but we have a lot of digital resources, like literally over 100. And there's probably more because there's just so many out there. But we're trying to get a handle on all these resources, align them to curriculum, standards, budget, and just the K-12 alignment with everything we do. So we have a process now where teachers, we created a Google form. They need to submit any new requests through this Google form. It has a few questions. We didn't want to make it prohibitive so teachers wouldn't fill it out. But it has questions as far as audience, is it an assessment tool? Is it a management tool? And then what happens, and I apologize, I meant to pull up the workflow. It's going to go at the building level to the curriculum specialist and the technology integration specialist. And those two people are going to provide an initial review, and then if they feel like it's worthy, then they're going to recommend it to the principal, who has final approval. And if there's budget implications, then I get pulled in the loop. So that's kind of the process. And I'll send a picture of the workflow on the back end of this. Sorry about that.
Dan, is that the same same sort of process for the teachers who ask the PTO for not necessarily the grants, but we had something off cycle where someone was asking for something and said, oh, I think my fellow grade teachers are going to use it. And my response was, I really think that should go to Dan and Joni first. If it's truly curriculum, PTO probably should not be funding that right yet. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like,
They've been good about that, by the way. I appreciate the PTO. They have been including me. And now I'm actually sort of removed from the loop. It's going to be more curriculum-based, and they're going to be the initial reviewers. And then if it's a budget implication, then it includes me.
But yes, I appreciate that. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Because, I mean, we need to look at the global,
Right.
the goals and the vision of that particular curriculum.
and it's not that the PTO doesn't want to help fund,
Right.
but at some point, and I keep saying, the district needs to understand what people are using.
Yes.
We can't just keep
Yes.
being generous and with all good intentions, but it's going to cause a little bit of a mess. So I'm hoping that people will continue to go to you. I hope you don't mind that I've been pushing them
Yeah,
to you.
they've been very good, so I appreciate
Okay.
that.
And it goes back to the equity that we're trying to build too, because then sometimes we'll end up having the haves and the haves not again, which is, we're trying to move away from that.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Sorry, thanks.
No, good questions, comments. So we just launched this process officially with the new year. We've had 3 submissions, so we put them through the rigor of our review process. So we're still tweaking this, but everyone that's involved is feeling very good about it. So I want to thank Joni's curriculum team, who had a big hand in this, and then, of course, the technology integration team at the building. So we're excited about this. So we'll see. The other
They're a
piece.
great team together.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, we meet usually, his team and my team, and they're melding very well together, so it's a good team.
Yeah, one of the drivers of this was the student privacy, so that's part of the requirements too, that it doesn't have to be on our approved list, but it does have to eventually meet those requirements. So if it's something that's not on our list, we basically engage our legal team, and they secure an agreement with the vendor. That's normally what happens. We have some vendors that refuse. If they refuse, we have to look for alternatives. There are a few exceptions to that, like Adobe. Adobe is a core requirement for courses here at the high school. So we have to make exceptions for software like that. But it's very rare to do that. So that's number 1, digital resources. The second one is using data. Of course, this is no surprise, just taking all that STAR data and aligning it with MCAS data. You've heard this in other presentations, so that involves my office as well. So, all right, moving on to budget, and this is where the Arch 4 comes in, the resources. But I just wanted to share what I'm planning to bring forward in a couple weeks, just in advance, so you can maybe ask more questions later if you want. But spring 2023, and this you've already seen in the past, is just the high school auditorium. Again, it's not a safety issue or anything like that, but it's a need, in my opinion. We have outdated lighting there. It's not a shocker. We have spotlights that we have to rent for events, so that's a cost. It's just they're not LED, so they're not energy efficient. And I shouldn't say the ceiling is LED. It's just everything else that hits the stage is not LED. And you can imagine those lights are going out of existence for replacement. It's just going to be an ongoing need. So I'm sharing it again. I did chat with Keith a little bit about it today, so that's the price tag right now.
Other than like the dimmer panel, which obviously would stay in the building, or any of the lighting that you'd be looking at, things that if for some reason we 5 years from now had a building project, would we be able to move those things?
Yeah, great question. We do believe, we asked the vendor that provided this quote, and they did say, yeah, it's movable.
Okay.
So it's all in these, I forget what you call them, but these runners. They're mounted on the runners, so we can move all that. The dimmer panel as well, and also.
Oh, okay. I didn't think that.
There is a light board that's already there. It just got repaired.
Okay.
And that would be portable as well.
Okay.
Is it so portable that you could run it on over to Rams? I
don't know about that.
There's difference between moving it and having it installed.
Yes, yes.
It's not,
Yes.
not plug and play.
Well, no, that's why I was asking how portable it was.
I'm just saying there's just like nothing lost in it, is what I'm saying.
Give me a couple weekends' notice. I'll get it over there.
Yeah.
Things you don't want to
Well,
follow.
we can, so don't say that.
Yeah, be careful what you promise.
I know. My wife will not be thrilled. And then looking ahead to fall 2023, we have our grade 5 and 8 Chromebooks. We're going to be deploying those shortly. And so that request will come again next fall as part of our replenishment plan. That seems to be working pretty well. The price tag of Chromebooks is increasing a bit, but we are getting the newer models, which is great because they have better Wi-Fi and everything else with them. And they're going to last. Google has an auto expiration date before they don't support them anymore. So the newer ones are like 2029 before they reach end of life. So we get a lot of life out of them. And these Chromebooks, just a reminder, they go back into grades 2, 3, and 4 once they leave the high school and middle school. And then looking ahead, we just replaced one of the high school labs with devices out here with new laptops. We have another lab next fall that I'm going to be probably recommending for a replacement. And then potentially the music studio, which has 16 iMacs with keyboards attached and everything. Those things were here well before I got here in 2017, and we have some of them starting to fail. So we need to start thinking about the music studio. And then the big ticket up here is next spring, 2024, we have staff laptops, which last time we did this, we had COVID funding that helped with this, but of course that's no longer available. So, and then the classroom data connections, I'll explain that later on, but that would be an E-rate project. So that's one thing you'll notice is there's no huge E-rate projects. Just full disclosure, we had projects approved last May, which were switches and cabling. They're caught in the supply chain. We feel like February, we actually might get that launched. We did install 3 new servers, which we're happy about. That just ended yesterday. So your devices are hitting our new equipment right now, which is much more secure. They were 2008 servers. We're now in 2022. So very happy about that. So questions about the capital forecast? Okay. Operating budget for next year. Again, you'll hear about this more in a couple weeks with Keith touches on it, I'm sure. But this is what I'm anticipating. And I did not do a good job with this last year. We saw software increases, somewhere 5 to 10%. I had to really negotiate with some of the vendors, and I said, look, this is not budgeted. You need to stick with your current price. I'm just not seeing that happening again in some cases, so we're anticipating 5% increase in software. And then we're adding French immersion software. We're happy about this, called Le Lilo, and that has actually already been purchased, and the French immersion teachers in Placentina are going to be trained January 27th on the software. But the vendor wanted them to have some access before the training, just in case anyone's wondering. And then we're looking at, and you'll hear about this, I think, on January 19th from Jess Beatty, but looking at possibly some different special education software that might include digital signatures as part of the workflow. So that would be a potential additional cost. So other than that, we don't anticipate any major increases above this.
Is that
Sorry, any
DocuSign that you'd be
questions?
using? Sorry.
It's not.
No, okay.
It's part
It's
of-
specific just for special education. It can't be used for anything else?
Correct.
Okay.
It's integrated with the program we're considering.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would replace the IEP
Yep.
software, and it would do both. That's one of the big things that we have a challenge with, is getting the documents back.
Yeah.
We're still printing them out,
Yes,
sending them out.
I know,
So
yeah.
we're trying to be obviously more efficient with the
Right.
hiring process, all of these things. So.
That's why I was just wondering whether it was just specifically just to special education or whether it could be used more broadly, because I know there's more
Well-
applications for it than just that.
We do currently with Unified Talent have the
Okay.
ability to sign some things within there. So like
Okay.
I sign, now I get requisitions sent to me. Instead of me having a paper doc, I'm signing a lot of things in there. We're working with the town collaboratively as well to try to shift, because
yeah.
we have the ability to send a lot of our documents through Unified Talent and
Yeah.
over to the town
Yeah.
to speed up the hiring process. But they have to kind of modify some of their paper processes, and I feel like there's a willingness to do so. And now might be the transition time
Yeah.
for that as well.
Yeah, that's where I feel like it's time. We could do digital signatures, across the board. We're just there. Any other questions about the operating? Okay, this is back to Arch 1 and data governance. So just to take the deep dive into here. So we've done a lot of training with cybersecurity, so I wanted to share that with the group. We've trained 79 users. We had 2 cohorts, and the users were primarily central office. Yep, Dr. Kuska,
I
Joni.
finally finished.
They went through the modules. They're provided by the state, and we collaborated with the town to get the grant. I credit Chris Mayo. He was spearheading this. And then we collaborated with the town, and they had users in their office, too, that took the modules. We've had a grand total of 79 people trained. Basically, any new people in these high-profile positions as far as data, finance, HR, nurses, or people with a lot of power school access, we enroll them in the training. So we're continuing to do that. And then the digital resources I mentioned, we're requiring them to meet the student privacy requirements. Massachusetts, no shocker, is one of the leaders nationally in privacy. So feel very happy to be a part of this state as far as that's concerned. This is a big one. I mentioned this to Keith today, and he almost threw me out of his office.
Couple appropriate words first.
Multi-factor authentication, I'm sure people deal with it at home with different products, but I really don't anticipate it being bad, but it is required as part of our cyber insurance from the town. They are now requiring that our staff use multi-factor authentication. So what that means basically is if you log into another device that's not yours, then you're going to be prompted for, is this really you? That sort of scenario. So people, I think it's much worse.
It is
But
not very nice.
I know, it's not great, but
Well,
that's
it's
where
not
we're going.
asking you
No,
for
it's
your
like you're gonna
password
text your
again, that's
code.
what, yeah.
Yeah, but when you move around, like,
Yeah, it's
to
very-
different, devices.
painful.
It's a pain. You have to do it every
I don't
time.
remember my shoe size in 7th grade.
Right.
Hey, that's the problem, so.
Right.
I don't know, at home I get, because I'm on multiple different devices, and I constantly have to do this.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
Google Authenticator, like what do you use?
thought you
Like
could
something
do it
like
once per
that, like
device.
authenticators?
Now, we're going to recommend that
Every
people
time you
use
log in.
Gmail
So,
as the authenticator. So what happens for me, as an example, like when I log into a different device with my Google account, I get a prompt on my phone, like, is this really me?
Yeah.
And it comes through Google.
Yeah, and also, I mean, typically, like nowadays it's Google Photos or that just the authenticator is one of those things that they will need to do, right?
Yeah, we saw, there's a bunch of options out there. We recommended the mail one. Our team kind of looked at all the options. We thought this was the simplest. They don't even have to use their phone necessarily. They just have to be on a device that sees
Or they can
them.
access the mail.
Yeah,
It would be your mail and your drive, right?
correct.
Yeah. So 'cause anything that you might have confidential information is all the
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And just as an example, we did not force this, and we kind of got burned by it over the holidays because a Miller employee did get hacked. Someone in New York City, and they started to spam a bunch of people in our district. So we feel like multi-factor would have prevented that because the New York City person would not have been able to get into their account. So case in point right there. We had no ramifications from that other than a lot of people emailing me saying I got this. It was really kind of it really seemed like an authentic email about someone selling a grand piano or offering to give a grand piano to the district. And it turned out to be a phishing email. But they had pictures and everything. It was quite clever. So, did you guys get it too?
We're getting that.
But
You may
I
have.
click on it, obviously.
Yeah, you may have, because a lot of people, when people reply to that, that's when the trouble starts, and people did do that, so. Infrastructure, again, you're on new equipment tonight. We're happy about that. We deployed it to the Woodland campus yesterday, new servers. And then again, the cabling and the switches that we had approved at last May town meeting, stuck in the supply chain. We feel like they're coming in February, best case. So all these things contribute to the data governance that is part of that strategic plan and continues to expand. Questions? All right, so these are the three things that I shared tonight. So that's
Thank you
That's
for
it
the
for my
sneak
quiz.
preview.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Thank you for the
Sneak
preview
preview.
for.
Oh, you're welcome.
I also have to say that, the presentation was really nice. I could read everything really nicely. I mean, of course, I have glasses on still.
Thank you. This is Canva once again,
Yeah,
which
I
we're
think it's,
really recommending for teachers, and actually students can access Canva too.
everybody should have Canva.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like your nod to Clippy, the paper clip on the end.
The Microsoft.
Yep. Clippy, the office assistant.
All right, thanks again.
My pleasure.
Mr. Boudet, budget.
I sent an email out to everyone yesterday where I'm kicking this down the road for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right.
We have a budget meeting on Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah, so it makes more sense to
That's fine.
have a better update after that.
Policy, do you have any, there's nothing here, but are there,
We didn't meet.
okay. You didn't meet on Christmas? No Christmas policy meeting?
I wanted New Year's would have been fun. New Year's.
New Year would have been nice.
Okay.
Policy and resolutions.
We're
Central
trying to
office.
find a date to meet in currently.
Okay. Dr. Kiska?
Sure, so just a few quick things. Dan was talking about data and really and using the website more efficiently. So we've been working really closely with Julie Marshall, who's our data systems specialist and also our webmaster for our district. And she's been slowly ticking away on certain projects. So one of the things we're going to be working on is ensuring that all the school committee presentations such as this will end up on the website on your page. So we're working on that shortly. One of the other features that I've asked Julie to work on, I think I already shared with you the last meeting. She updated all the policies on the website, so it's a much cleaner look there when you click to the school committee page and policies. That's a lot cleaner, and we're doing a better job getting them updated as quickly as possible. And now that we have Julie on top of that. So if you don't see something there at some point that's already been approved, just let us know so we can get that up and running because we're trying to stay on top of that. And then Julie is also creating a data dashboard for me. One of the things that people have asked, we had our hate speech incidents, and then we get a lot of questions about bullying incidents. And over a year's time, they're not that frequent. However, when they happen, people get a lot of angst about it. So rather than, my concern is always the balance of when an incident happens, and let's say one person sees the incident, it's horrible that things happen. However, when I send something out to the whole community, do we re-traumatize everybody? So I'm trying to find the balance of communicating without over-traumatizing and trying to keep kids feeling safe as well. So we haven't had any incidents just as of late, but what we come up with is a new data dashboard. So we'll be working with the principals to collect that information and every month update it. And I'll be putting it as a link in my communication so that if people want to see the numbers of cases by month, they'll be in there rather than having to send it out because they're not happening frequently, but at the same token, we want to be as transparent as process. So that's one of the new features that we'll work on with that. And then just for me, I've been attending student advisories recently, and then I started my staff check-in meetings. I'm going to be doing office hours. I had one, was it just yesterday, I think, at Rams, and then I'll be doing one at each of the buildings in the upcoming weeks. So I'm trying to get back into those and get into the swing of things. Just nice to be able to check in with staff, even though I'm always visiting the buildings, but just to offer them time to meet one-on-one or in small group is helpful as well. And then the only other thing I had was just a reminder about preschool registration info night is January 31st. We were talking about that today. That's why it was on my mind. And just other thing was I did send out that you all saw an update on just hygiene and optional mask wearing. I don't think at this point we want to consider anything more than that, but you've seen a lot of districts just reinforcing that. We want students and staff to feel comfortable should they want to wear masks, so we do have them available at all buildings if they want to ask for them. But the nurses worked with me on getting some hygiene updates out there as well. I think it's something we just need to keep reminding ourselves of. Hasn't gone away yet.
Can I say one thing just on this topic? A superintendent in another district is doing like a residency where they visit the different schools, and someone at my school was like, oh, that's great that they're doing that. Like, superintendents are never in schools. And I was like, oh, the Holliston superintendent is like constantly in schools.
I try. I don't, sometimes I miss it, but yeah, I don't feel the need to be there for 2 weeks straight. I like to do them.
Because I feel like you're always in schools for all different reasons.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Joey?
Yes, and since we have the pleasure of having Mr. McLeod here, I'm going to ask you to jump in, please, and make sure I don't forget anything. So Dana and I have had the pleasure of working with tech integration specialists and curriculum, district curriculum coordinators, and we're really, it's a very fun collaborative process, and the group has worked very well together. We will have over 45 district presenters at our January 27th PD. Staff is building out websites. Help me out here. We're just like collaborating on everything though. Building the agenda, making sure we're spacing out the offerings well, making sure that world language offering is not conflicting with another world language, so they can attend all of those. Being very thoughtful about that.
Yeah, as one staff member, it's a giant puzzle, like a lot of moving parts. So it's interesting, but this group is great. Like, they have a lot of great ideas, and they're really talented. So we're really looking forward to that day.
And so to kick it off, I'll pass this around so you guys can see. This is the speaker that we're bringing in to kick it off. Please come and listen to him. Todd Maslony, you can pass that around. He will be doing our keynote from 8 to 9. He'll also be doing 2 breakout sessions. His keynote is on Kids Deserve It. That is one of his book titles. And we'll be bringing in 2 other sessions. Just Beatty and I have seen him speak, so is David Jordan. Ironically, at the same presentation, and we didn't know each other yet, but Todd is very well known, and we're excited to bring him, but really more excited to showcase our local talent here in the teachers, getting exciting t-shirts for them, have all sorts of incentives for them and some giveaways for them that Dan's been able to get. So it is exciting. So really proud of how the staff's come together. It's been a tough couple of years, but teachers have really risen to once again revive the, help me out here, how many years ago was it?
It was 2020, so that's 3 years ago.
Okay, so 3 years ago, so. Yes.
And hopefully it'll be a mid-year rejuvenation as well with the
Yes.
speaker in the middle of the year as well.
Yes. So please come on and see it. Another thing, just to review, on December 14th, we just had a really long meeting, the last meeting, so I did not update you guys, just to do a very brief recap of what we did on December 14th. Placentino and Miller, they both had Nicole Bottomley, Principal Bottomley, work with them on figuring out how does a vision of a graduate apply to their building level and what they're going to do to work on that. So Nicole did a nice job of really walking everyone through how it was developed here at the high school, and then they had time to work together as a staff to determine how are they going to start bringing that down to the pre-K through 2 level, the 3 through 5 level. At Placentino and Miller, the music, art, PE, and science teachers had understanding by design training with the curriculum coordinators. Miller's teachers continued working on, it was a follow-up to writing across the content areas afterwards. Rams, they worked on Tier 2 professional development, so they reviewed new discipline laws, restorative justice practices, PBIS practices that they were doing, and collaborative problem solving regarding discipline. And then had goal work at the high school. Nicole Bottomley brought in a outside speaker, Abby, I'm going to slaughter her name probably, Bentito. She did vision of a graduate work and really had them look at refining rubrics and what vision of a graduate actually looks like within the classrooms. And then they went off and did department work. Some of the high school department work they did was understanding by design, specific training, like for the science department, performing arts, and fine arts were working on really digging deep into their curriculum standards. Same with the L teachers and WIDA standards. So it really was standards focused in the afternoon. And then as a district, the counseling department did cognitive behavior therapy training together, different modules, and the nurses got together and did training. So we got some very positive feedback on a lot of the sessions. And to let you know and remind you guys, on January 27th, our paraprofessionals will be joining us too. So we're excited to join them. And also, help me out here, some central office people will be attending.
Yes, we're going to invite office staff to the morning sessions. So they're going to be participating in 2 morning sessions, and then they'll report back to their buildings. So we're trying to get everyone trained, that includes central office too.
That's been a missing link because that's always a time that they're answering doors and things, but we feel it's really important. We did that at the safety training during the year. We made sure that the district-wide, so we're trying to be more cognizant of that. And when we propose a new calendar for next year, I'll be talking about PD and how we want to streamline it and be more efficient and have that vertical alignment. So that'll be coming up. Stay tuned when we talk about the calendar as well.
Yeah, that's great.
So a lot of exciting things happening.
I'm interested in more of the vision of the graduate work because I sat on the original group that worked together. So I'm interested in more. Like I'm very interested in the conversations that were going on at the elementary schools, and I'm wondering if it's not too much work at some point.
You want to get some more information?
Yeah,
Sure.
and even if we could get the original group together and hear like where our work is going.
Do you have a list of the original people that were on that somewhere?
I can dig it up.
If you can dig that up for me, please, and forward it to me. But yes, we could do that.
Yeah, we felt it was really important to start bringing that concept because it doesn't start at high
Right,
school.
yeah.
It's pre-K all the way up.
And if you remember, shame on me, I should know this, but it is initiative in our strategic plan that we were going to, do you remember that, Amanda and Minnie? It was one of the initiatives, and I can't remember, about vision of a graduate work, bringing it down all the way.
Under teaching and learning, I believe. And
Okay.
I want to
I
say
should know that,
it was-
but I don't.
yeah,
No, it's just, it's so great,
Right.
like, it's coming to fruition. I mean, just
Right.
like the global citizenship, like, so.
You can see it
we want to
happening
see
now.
it, really.
Right.
And I think the original group would be excited
Yeah,
to see that as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah, if you can please provide that to me, because I don't have that.
Yep.
Okay, will do.
I did forget to mention the equity audit. I did send an email out to the school committee. They're trying to schedule the focus group, so if the 23rd works, I was going to set up that Zoom with the L&P coordinator. Okay. And I'll be sending out the community group will be doing it around that time as well. We're starting the focus groups at the middle and high school, and they'll be starting their interviews with us in the next couple of weeks as well.
Yes,
so
correct.
So that's starting to move, and then we'll be getting info out to you after we get some information back from. At some point, they'll join us, and they'll actually come present with us, and they'll tell you what they would recommend based on what they see. So that'll be interesting. Another initiative. We're checking off a lot of boxes, but not just to check off. They're really tied to all the work we're doing, which is why I feel it's important. It's not just like compliance. It's really about how we move the district forward.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations.
Just a couple of quick updates with regards to security. The camera project is nearly done. What is it? 9 of the 10 cameras are up and running. One of them had some problems, so they have to come back. They're going to come back, again, because they're short-staffed. They're going to be coming back when they're finishing up the fob project. The fob project started a couple of weeks ago, continued through vacation week. The Miller and Placentino schools, I believe, are completed. They've got to then do the middle, obviously, and high. I have 500 fobs in my office right now, but don't really know what to do with them yet because I don't know if the software is running or not or how to get to the software. So, but moving forward. So we're hoping that, ideally before we hit, say, February vacation, we'd have a full rollout. So that's kind of, at least that's my mental goal on this. So, but we'll keep chugging along on that. So, so things are good there. We had a safety meeting today as well. So, on a few other issues. But yes, we're progressing along. So,
Are those fobs only for the main doors? For teachers?
There's
staff?
3 doors at each school that will have fob access.
That's probably a good idea.
So it's I think in every school it's their front door. I know in every school it's their front door. At Placentino, it's 2 other doors related more to the playground. Miller's a playground, and actually both of theirs are playground.
No side door, I can't remember.
Well, that's actually where the playground is.
For
It's
safety
close enough to there.
access,
The middle school is, I don't remember which goes to the middle school and the high school. It's spread around a little bit, so. yeah.
And it's your ID that unlocks it?
No, it's a
No,
separate
it's a separate
fob.
Oh, okay.
I will say, I think it's great that you went with the fob option because the keypad, they fall apart.
They do.
Because they just get so much abuse.
So much use.
Yeah, so.
They do,
fobs
and they
are way
also,
easier.
it's hard to keep changing the code
Correct.
and protect that
Yeah,
code,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Whereas
I
you can
have
go on a
seen-
computer and just change what a fob's access
And
is.
we'll be creating groups within there. I mean, one of the reasons, in meeting with the vendor, it's the same vendor who does our cameras, so we were able to get the solution much cheaper because the software we already have is part of our camera system. It's just that, again, so it's going to be embedded, being a part of that. But the fobs, we're going to create groups, and so there'll be a high school teacher group, and that'll be available school days from this time to this time.
Right.
And end of story type of thing. Administrators will be available, like Nicole will have access 24 hours a day here.
Right.
That sort of thing. So we'll be able to create, subgroups within the larger group that'll help us manage that. The biggest challenge will obviously be people reporting when they lose their fobs, which will happen. So that's something we, really have to stay on. If a fob falls off 2 feet away from a door, somebody's going to figure out it belongs here. So, but, again, we'll cross those bridges as we get to them. But remind everybody that, when you take a fob, you are responsible for it and you have to tell us. So,
But it's good it's not tied directly to this, because I've been in another district that it was attached to your ID, so your school was on there, access to get in the school was on there, and it was like, oh boy, that was not good.
And then there's been some ongoing discussions about the a roof situation at Miller. I just want to give you an update on that. It wasn't a roof situation, it's a skylight situation, first off. We addressed it. We actually have it tarped off now to prevent the rain from coming in. It's, the climate change that makes things like caulking with these roof breaches a challenge. In the summer, it's great. The caulk is nice and soft and pliable and covers it. It tightens up, obviously, in the winter. And we're not supposed to have rain this time of year. Needless to say, we have rain this time of year. In meeting with one of our roofing contractors, his strong recommendation is to take the skylight out altogether. Plywood it up, he'll come and put a membrane over it and call it a day. It's just, he hates skylights personally, especially on flat roofs. I mean, they're not necessarily great on a pitched roof. It's a flat roof. It's just, you're just looking for trouble. So, and again, it ages. I mean, those skylights were put in at Miller in 98, I think the summer of 98 they were. The latest would be sometime in the fall of 98. So again, they're going to age and weather and develop cracks and things of that nature. And as much as we've caulked up the joints, eventually, it's just time to either replace it or to eliminate it. And at this point, his recommendation is to eliminate it. So.
Is it more designed to have, just like for design, or was it for lighting, which is why they put skylights?
It's not design. It was to provide some sort of natural light into the space. The fact is that first we get better light now from the LEDs that are here now as opposed to the old fluorescent lighting that was initially put in place. And truthfully, it just doesn't put that much light into it. If you've ever been in the schools with the lights off, like on a Saturday at noon, it's still not giving a lot of light.
Yeah.
It's just not significant enough. And the negative side of having these leaks that are going to continue, as we go through, it just isn't worth it. It really isn't. So the more prudent path to take with this is to just eliminate the skylight. So that's the plan.
Is there a plan for the Miller roof replacement at this point?
The Miller roof replacement, well, again, the membrane on the Miller roof is still in good shape, so that's way out. The capital piece, that's not Miller School. That's the pitched roof, the shingled roof that's over the cafeteria. The plan is for this spring, and we're going to go out to bid this spring and hopefully get it done across at least the elimination of the old roof, either during February or vacation. But again, the pricing has not been good. Between COVID and pricing, we've been in bad places, but we're just going to go forward with it. We've been lucky that hasn't leaked yet, and I mean yet. But again, it's just it's just time for us just to do it. So. We'll overrun costs on that, but the state has been good to us in certain areas, so we'll be fine.
Thank you.
Great.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Personnel, the stipend factors?
Yes, so we had a number of clubs proposed that were, the process and the collective bargaining agreement is that they're piloted the first year, and then if it takes traction, then the principal is supposed to recommend to me that they want to continue this club, and then I work with the union to negotiate the factors. So this is strictly related to the contract. I had Keith sit with me on these conversations, and we went through these 7 different clubs that are in your packet. So I don't know if you have any questions about them or if you wanted me to go through them, but it's really the process that we go through. It's not a very efficient process. We've spent an awful lot of hours vetting these. I think that it's a unique process to Holliston. I haven't seen it other places, but it is the process that's in our contract, so we will continue it. And we are excited about some of the ones which you see. One of them is the DECA program that we just talked about. So that had been piloted with Taryn last year. And Culture Club is also a new club this year, which we had heard some really good things about that. So it's exciting to hear the work that the teachers are doing with students. And then DECA with Nationals would be just when she goes it's not automatic that you go to Nationals. So if she goes to Nationals, that's the stipend piece for that part. It's an add-on to it. And band director was just reevaluating based on the number of students and the number of time that's going into that with the factors. Same with GSA. GSA, I think, has to have a name change in the contract, or do we say it was already changed? We have some name changes, but I'm not going to bring those forward with you. I think we can just change them in the next iteration. That's more of a housekeeping thing. The GSA was newly updated.
Are we sunsetting other programs or clubs?
Well, it's interesting, we haven't.
Because we only have one pool of money, so how are we disseminating that?
We have to, that's the concern I had when we heard so many brought to us on short notice, is how do we fund these when they weren't budgeted for?
Yeah.
So I did have that conversation with our high school principal, that we have to be very strategic looking at, so what are the existing clubs, because some of them may have just, students may have lost interest, and if I have 4 students in a club versus 25, 30, 45, 52 like we heard tonight, we have to make some difficult decisions then. So it's a matter of then, we don't have to run them all next year. That's the piece. But I do think there's some old language of terms in the contract that really are not applicable, and some of the principals have said to me, this is not a club that's even like appropriate for this day and age, so why is it still in there? So that seems to not have been much of a practice of eliminating them, but I do think it's time to go through all of them, because along with taking some of the old terminology out, I think it's time to reassess, because if a club was factored, let's say 5 years ago, and there were 100 students in it, and now only 10 students, technically, it's not even workable to do this, but technically you should be doing those every single year based on the number of students, because the factors equate to students and the times that you're meeting with them. So that's why this model is really labor intensive and not as effective as I would like, because it's really hard to be accurate unless you're doing it every single year, would you say?
Yeah, the challenge with it is that there are so many factors in computing the factors for it, and it's just, some of it is subjective, in all honesty. Some of it is, while objective, it doesn't, because someone is putting in X amount of time into it, doesn't mean that that's what we think is needed to have this club. Whether they move slowly, they're going deeper than they need to, or whatever it is. It's most districts, and when I mean most districts, have a singular number that is placed for a club, and if somebody feels that it's worth more, they may come and talk about it, but it is a singular number. In most cases, something that's market value, so that your Tiddlywinks club in Hopkinton is $100 more than the Tiddlywinks club in Ashland, but $100 less than the one in Holliston. They're all within a range. Some of our clubs, I will tell you right now, are way above the range. Some of our activities are way below the range. The model is so odd and
Unique,
and archaic. It's oddly unique, and but it's also archaic. Again, I've not found a single contract in the Commonwealth that has this type of factoring done. So,
Well, and again, I brought a situation to Susan that one of the clubs came to the PTO asking for funding so that they could participate in something. And my response was, well, hold on, students are paying activity fees. I know that the activity and athletic and bus fees are supplementing the budget, that they are not covering it all, but there is a disconnect somewhere here. They shouldn't be going to the PTO to ask to help pay for like a competition. So I'm
especially in a situation where, again, did they say that they went to the principal turned it down? That's, there's many layers to this, and pretty much no layer is the PTO involved. And that's, because again, they could be usurping the fact that the principal does not view this as valuable, does not view it as something she thinks they should go to, has heard bad things about the site or the event or what. We don't know why the decision was necessarily made, but the point is that the principal didn't support it for whatever reason, and that's her purview.
Or it could be.
Or they just skip that step entirely. They didn't realize they had to.
So I don't know if it's
That's
a new
what I'm
club, the
thinking.
first year it's for free. You do it as a pilot to try to gauge interest.
Right.
That's
how
the
do you
fun.
do it for free in terms of paying for the event?
That's a different pot. That's a different thing. Is that a stipend for the person that's working it? See, that you're talking about something.
You're talking about expenses outside of it. The stipend itself, the reason that we piloted is because of this model that we have, this unique model that we have. We have to have them test it out, basically, take it for a test drive before we have a clue on how to factor it. That's, again, the reason that exists is because of this unique model. Without it, without that sort of thing, we could very easily go market rated, go look at these 6, 7 districts that circle us. Well, 4 of them have this club, 3 of them pay within this area, we're done.
Don't we have a similarly archaic model for sports? as
Yes,
well?
oh no, absolutely, this is all
It's all the same,
activities.
right?
All activities, and again, I can show you examples of, we have coaches that are grossly underpaid, and a number of them that are overpaid, I won't say grossly overpaid, but overpaid, based on market rates. It's, you know, it's a discussion that, you know, we certainly have encouraged to try to want to talk about, so.
So at any rate, because it says that we're asked to bring this to you to approve them, because ultimately they end up going into the contract, and you are the collective bargaining authorities, right? So that is why I'm bringing them forward to you. Keith and I feel comfortable with the work that we did on these 7 documents.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess I would just like to make sure that we have other programs that have been sunsetting or are no longer, so that we can afford to pay the stipends that they've approved for it. Because it's not like we're taking any, we're just adding. We're just adding.
And that
So
was-
where's the agreement of us actually taking some out? Like, is
Not
that
every-
somewhere on the other side of this with the HFT, or no?
Not every club that is here is occurring, okay? Just
Right,
so,
there are a number in the
you
contract
know.
that are not, like, that have not been running.
And truthfully, there's a provision within the contract that we discovered accidentally today, just that we haven't had to access it. But if any activity has been dormant for 3 years,
Right.
The factors have to be renegotiated, which means only more work on our end. But,
Yes.
That's the other piece of
but it means that it can't exist unless it's being renegotiated,
So this might be a foolish question, but you're not just automatically paying those advisors, right?
I don't know what that means.
Well, each year we get a list of
The stipends.
every year we get a list from the principals, what programs they're offering, and we have to send it out
Okay.
to staff to gauge their interest and who wants to be part of that, and then the principal lets us know who's going to take them. So basically, the principal right now is deciding which clubs are running based on interest and whatnot, but I do think we need to look at
Yeah.
more closely, because my concern has been how many kids are actively participating in these, and that's an annual, we really should be collecting data on
Yeah,
that
and
annually.
if something is fizzling out,
Right.
and like, oh, it's November and no one's really coming anymore, so we just won't meet today, and then you never meet again, like, are they still getting the stipend?
It's hard to answer that question because I don't get that data.
Right.
How's it getting monitored? I do know that the students, when they sign up, that's how they can gauge that it's 52 students, for example, that are
Yeah.
coming. But you're right, if a child starts disappearing, my worry is also with safety. If a parent thinks their child's attending GSA on X amount of days or band on X amount of days, do we then hold the responsibility for safety when the student doesn't show up? So I think we do have to start collecting the data from a safety perspective, but that would also help us understand,
That doesn't worry me as much, only because like if a kid, like, you probably have kids, unaccounted for in the building at all times after school, like staying after with teachers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Like, I
that's
never
when
know
they're,
if my
that's when,
kids-
that's if they're showing up and parents might call, where's my child? They didn't come home today. The flip side is, if I think my child 4 days a week is at band because they signed up and I paid the $50 and they haven't attended all year,
Yeah.
where are they? I mean, I
That's
just worry
true.
about that liability piece,
That's true. But I mean, a kid could also, I don't know. what
Yes,
I'm
the
even
kid- there are other
arguing
kids
with
in the
you
building
about.
for
A kid
other
could be like, I
reasons.
stay after with Mrs. Bigelow every Tuesday for math help, and they
There's
don't.
also this thing called Find My Phone.
But we didn't sign off on that. That's the difference. We're acknowledging that.
Just saying.
Right, no,
That's true. That's
this
true.
is
Where my
a
children are.
school-based
That's true.
program as
That makes
opposed to,
sense.
they found an open door, they never left,
Right.
they're hanging out on the field somewhere.
Just something.
I don't know why I'm arguing, I agree with you.
Is there, I guess I just want to make sure that there is an ongoing conversation about whether we're going to, at some point, formally have a discussion with HFT about all the activities and so we can realign them so they make more sense.
That's
It's been an
exactly
ongoing
that.
discussion for, I don't know, Stacy, since you've been on the committee, for sure,
I
at
think
least
it's
for
a
me.
good topic, when you can talk it during collective bargaining is a good time to probably bring
It's a
that up.
collective bargaining discussion.
Right, but when we're adding new one, I'm just saying, like, we're adding them, but this is not part of our collective bargaining discussion, it's just,
But there's a provision
and I'm not
in it.
saying we don't want to, I have no
But there's a
issue with the
provision-
clubs.
There's a provision in the contract that calls for that.
I get
To
that.
go through and make a wholesale change into the
Yes.
computation of those stipends
Great,
is
so-
outside of, can't happen outside of
I
collective
think we
bargaining.
need to
Yes.
do a better job as administrators to determine what can we fund.
Right,
And then, doesn't mean we just fund, so
yeah,
if 50 teachers want to do these particular clubs and they're
Right.
in the contract, but how much is it going to cost us?
Right, that's
before
what I'm
just-
saying. You
right.
looked at these
But I think
7
we
and
can
said these ones
control
we're
that.
comfortable with,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? We can, moving forward, now that I'm aware of more of this process, at the beginning of the year, we need to do a better job of saying, hey, you got data showing me that 4 kids came last year. I understand, it's a great club, but if only 4 kids are coming, then maybe we can't fund it at $2,000, because that's what the
Right.
doctor said, you know?
Is there a dollar amount that this?
It does
Is it-
equate to a dollar amount, but I don't have those, because it depends on who
On the
the person is
experience.
and their experience level, so I don't have the overall for that reason.
And I did have another question until I lost it.
But that is why we haven't moved forward with some of the other proposals that
Oh.
we received.
Don't you have numbers based on student activity fees paid?
No, because student activity fees it's one fee for as many clubs as you want to do. So while we may have 100 children doing student activities, they may all be doing band, they may all be doing chess club, they may all be there's 100 children doing anything after school doesn't mean they're doing any one particular thing.
You're asking all some of the same things that I've asked, just how do we capture that information, you know?
Is it possible to do more than one
Yes,
club?
yes. Not every club meets every day,
Some are
A lot of them meet once a week.
Some are 4 days.
and different days during the week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can they be in as many clubs as they want with that fee?
Yes.
Yeah, kids can.
They can meet at one club every
Do they
day.
indicate that when they pay? I clearly have not paid a student activity fee, so
Well,
that's why I'm
I'm
acting.
supposed to, I haven't paid it yet.
I
I'm
was gonna
supposed
say,
to.
yeah.
That's another accounting, you can write that down, that's fine, I'll bring my.
L-I-
I'm just, there should be a better accounting system for that. I literally get an email saying, can you pay this? And I'm like, I don't know what
Dan
club
and I
they're going
talked
to.
about that, whether we want to create separate lists for attendance, for example, for
Yeah.
that reason, you know? Then they'd have to do their attendance through our school like they do
We have to
for,
create an after-school.
Oh.
class or whatever.
I know.
I think,
want that.
I mean, it's,
I think robotics has a separate fee, if I'm not wrong.
No,
No?
no,
Just competition fees, if it's
no, they-
no? Okay.
Single fee.
Okay.
so my only concern would be what this number really is. I mean, if to vote on it, like, shouldn't we vote on a number so we know what it really is? Or close to what a number might be? I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be difficult, but I
No,
just.
you're right.
Right.
You're,
One of these
if you want me to
That's why I
vote,
keep
like,
asking, I want to support it, I just want to know.
I'm gonna put my
Yeah,
name
a couple
behind
of them-
it,
A couple of
Uday.
them are not total increases, because 3 of them are existing clubs, right? So, which one?
We are exercising
GSA
our
and band director,
fiduciary
we're not.
responsibility right now, that's what we're supposed to do, it's oversight.
If you take the sum of the, if you take the sum of the factors, give a 1 for experience for a first-year thing and multiply it times 297.80.
How about
You'll have
we
that.
vote at the next meeting?
Now, let's vote today.
Oh, okay.
So you do T plus R times 297.80?
T plus,
Yeah, come on, math
T
lady,
plus
get
R
it.
plus E, because an experience of 1 would be for a new club.
Come on, math lady, get that number for
If it's a
us.
first-year club, it's going to be a
E of 1.
1, yeah.
I also feel like some of the stuff isn't even filled out, it's like management needs, quality of school represent, I mean, like, there's.
Well, those were
numbers on
ones
some
that
of
were
those.
renegotiated, so we don't have the original, we
Yeah.
don't have the original
Some of them
factoring that
nothing.
got.
We're just like,
it-
we don't know.
So like the DECA is 2851 at a first year.
Making his life
And then add,
difficult.
huh?
It's all right, Amanda's doing the math.
You said 297, right?
297.80.
80.
Why is DECA and DECA with Nationals 2 different things? Is she getting both of those stipends?
So the issue that it's not guaranteed that
No.
students go to nationals, so
She gets,
if you
if
roll
she
them all
does, it's
in.
different.
Yeah, and it's,
If it's.
Correct.
she just, her
nationals.
expenses should be paid for if she's taking somebody to nationals.
Yeah.
They need supervision. You know
Well,
how
she
I
gets,
feel about
her
that.
expenses are paid to travel.
Correct.
And then.
This is about her having to do extra time on weekends especially
So
for
she
these
gets
things.
another
Yeah.
almost $600 for that event.
I totally won't.
But that's only if
Like,
they, only if they go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's a,
Okay.
this was a kind of a new thing that kind of mimicked what happens in athletics. In athletics, if a team makes the playoffs,
Right.
the head coach gets an additional stipend. So they came up with the idea of doing that because some of these things, again, a lot of these clubs are becoming more competitive, I'll say. They're not just hobby clubs, they're actual competition clubs. So in order to give a reward is the wrong word, to give additional compensation for their time for having their team play in these postseason, to go beyond their normal
Right.
Seasonal time. They wanted to make that proposal, and we felt it was fair.
All right, what's the number? What's the number, Amanda?
Oh, I
Well,
wasn't.
some of them are new, though. I mean, are not new, so some of them are
ballpark,
partially.
We're just getting a ballpark.
10,000?
Oh, all the new ones? It was probably like 15,000.
1,500.
No, I'll do it again. Sorry, I wasn't getting a
4,500.
running total. I did each one.
5,100.
And why is theater so low?
5,100, then it's a 4 increase on,
There's separate ones.
4,
That's specifically for NT
64, and then a 2. I'd say
It's not just theater.
about 7,000.
So I'm gonna do it as assuming DECA goes to nationals.
Sure.
7,000, and then
14,443.
That's pretty good. You could bump
it's
up.
not, though. I'll tell you why. Some of them are
Some
just
of them
going
are
from one to
increases.
another. So I just had it at like 7,600 plus another, I think I have it at like 9,400. It might have been a little high because I just lost track for a second. It might be a little less than that.
So we're somewhere between 10 and 15,000?
No, we're under 10,000.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and redo it in my head really
Because
quickly.
like theater and like the theater festival and Theater 370 are not new.
Theater 370 is a new stipend,
New
so that would be 7 times 300,
Yeah.
that's 2,100. And then
METG.
MedG is just plus 2 because that's for the playoff part of it.
Yeah.
So that's a $600 increase. Then you go, I'm just kind of ballparking them. And then similarly with GSA is a 2, so it's a $600 increase.
Band is 4.
Band is a $1,200 increase.
Okay.
And then DECA is new, so those are the ones that
Culture
you're.
Club. Oh, no, you
The
DECA
other ones
and
are not,
Culture
like,
Club are
on
new.
top of what we already have. It's just additional. Okay.
And when it says number of students 2, is that accurate?
It's not 2 students. Again, if you look in your contract,
It's
it
the-
has
a factor of
ranges.
2 and go, okay.
Right.
Okay.
From 1 to 10 is 1.
Yeah.
From 10
Take
to.
take a look at the,
It's
take a look at the.
ridiculous. I've
Yes.
seen it.
It's very,
But it's-
It's detailed.
It's dumb.
Right. Well, I'm
Unique.
comfortable moving to approve this only because I feel that you two have probably done a ton of due diligence here. So I'm going to move that we approve the new stipend factors for the clubs.
I'll second it.
Moved by Amanda, seconded by Cynthia. All in favor?
Thank you.
Stacy with a sigh.
Well, again, it's a little funky, so I'm just.
It's oddly unique.
You're taking that home with you.
You're just going to come back to haunt you probably every meeting.
He
Okay.
might resemble that remark.
Wow.
I was thinking that.
This is where we're going to
I
play.
was thinking that.
Where we're going to play it, Dance with the Devil.
Okay, reports from subcommittees, communications. Lisa is not here tonight, but I know that there's not a newsletter. Policy, you said you're getting a meeting together?
January 19th at 5 p.m.
Yeah, we just updated it. Awesome.
Okay. Budget,
And I'm not changing it again.
Budget is meeting this coming
You're going to go
Monday,
in, yeah.
January 9th at 9:30. Is this a remote-only meeting, or are we meeting?
I'm in person.
Yeah, I know you're in person, but every time I come here, no one else is
I
ready.
believe the chair was planning on coming,
Okay.
was what she expressed to me yesterday.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, January 9th
January
at 9:30, central office.
all right. Superintendent eval. I think that's Lisa, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you in a second when our meeting is. It's in the next couple of weeks or so.
No, but I think you were supposed to vote on my goals, the draft goals that I shared. We're going to vote at this meeting.
Yeah, that's a little further down the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, it is still
The
there.
communications
Yeah.
meeting is on the 10th at 11 o'clock. And I think
Okay.
it's virtual.
And our superintendent eval meeting is the 23rd at 11.
Yeah.
School start times. So we're getting together another meeting. And basically today we just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. We've been saying at every meeting, like, we're working on it, we're working on it. So basically up until this point, we've been just sort of in assessment mode of like, what's really happening. And it's been really hard to do that because of all the construction that was happening. It was hard to tell exactly what was going on. So one of the things, now that we're sort of on the other side of the holidays, one of the things that we're looking at, just in the way of giving you a heads up, is that having the high school and middle school bus run in the middle of the other two because of the time of day, because of the traffic on Washington Street, it's taking longer than it would have been expected. So one of the things that we're looking, we don't have answers for this yet, and we're still looking at it, is that because of the length of that bus run, the Placentino kids, not all of them, but 3 buses are regularly getting to school after the bell. And the Miller kids are getting out a little bit earlier to accommodate for the time for the buses. And this is just like pushing on the seams, like everybody's trying to just do their best to make it happen. And so that's what we're looking at now, is like, what are the implications of having the biggest, most robust bus runs in the middle of this really intricate process, knowing that we have the computer systems and have looked at things, and things are running as efficiently as they possibly can, and we know that. What do we do now that the Placentino kids aren't getting to school on time and the Miller kids are having to get out early? So that's where we are right now. So that's sort of like bigger question mark of, we're doing the best we can with the buses, but it's still pushing on either side. So what next? That's where we are. Just not a very, very happy thought to end on, but that's where we are, and that's where we left our last meeting. Was like, okay, so now what? Now that we know this, what do we do? After we've done this sort of assessment phase, now that the construction is done, now that we're, moving to the what now phase, what now?
And traffic is such a topic, because I sit on the traffic advisory committee, and all they talk about are people cutting through, going too fast, and the lights. And it's like, Holliston is only so big, wide. 16 is a cut through from Milford to Framingham. So some of it we have to learn to live with it. But we've done things like put in commercial vehicle exclusions on some roads. But I think, it's a hot topic for people, but it's something that I don't think is going to go away. And quite honestly, I think it may only get worse if you have more developments coming in or you have more businesses coming in. I mean, that's the truth of it. And so I think we need to have, as a town, we have to look at
Maybe having more one-ways, actually, something to look into.
Stacy, is there any discussion around making more access, like Mellon Street, for example, making that connect all the way through from Winter Street to Hollis Street? Because that actually would alleviate some of that traffic of all those people that have to go all the way down to Washington Street or go all the way around the other way instead of just going directly through.
it would, but then you're going to have those neighbors complain that
I understand that, but like,
yeah.
yes, you're right. And I know one of the people that lives right, I know two people who live right on that street, on that corner, but I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how else do we address that? And maybe if we would just make it a one-way, I feel like it would offshoot a lot of that traffic.
Yeah, even one way. That's what I'm saying. Maybe, have a little bit more look into the one-ways around the town.
I think it's something we have to talk with the select
we
board
are
about.
stuck right
As
now.
a
We have
townie,
kids.
the Mellon Street expansion has been a topic since
Oh, I know.
forever.
Yep, when I first moved to town, it was telling me that I could drive right through there, and then I went right into a boulder. I didn't hit the
duly
boulder,
noted,
just
but
like
my
you wouldn't
point
go any
was
farther. I was like, I can't cut through here.
about
It
traffic.
said that I could.
Like,
but I
that
Yeah,
means-
I mean, at this point, honestly, we just have to figure out something to cut down on the time that the kids are
Yeah.
Or what if
losing.
we make it the
Learning
buses
time.
only can go down it? What if the buses only could go down it?
Yeah, something,
saying.
I mean,
Only go
I'm
down
not
one.
sure
Mellon Street.
exactly.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, well, I wanted to share that the
Just gonna
traffic
say
advisory
Miller Maid
committee is
right away.
also, like, there's some, parallel discussions going on.
And you know what, I mean, some of that could actually mean that we could have different start times for kids, maybe, I don't know, that might be something to look on, like,
It's not going to have a significant change in the start times that we have now. It's just not.
What's
You know,
not? What's not?
if traffic is only, bless you, one component of it, it's not going to allow us to put any different schools together. It's not going to
But do you think
be a
it's
half
going
an
to allow
hour
us
difference.
to
It's just
not
not.
have the, Miller kids have to leave 10 minutes early, or to let the Positano kids be on time?
I don't know if they're leaving 10 minutes early. That's, I may be an exaggeration.
Okay, but do you think that these, solving the traffic issue would help alleviate the tightness of the bus schedule?
It would alleviate some of the tightness, no question,
We could make the bus stops farther away.
which we did this year with great complaints.
Yes, I know, because a lot of kids are picked up at their driveway, and there's certain places that's really important to do, like Winter Street, where there is absolutely no safe way to walk in at any age, if you ask
But
me.
if there's a sidewalk, students can go to a collective spot.
Correct,
within-
exactly, where there's sidewalks. And the more we expand these sidewalks, which is fantastic. I am so
Guess I wish
happy
she
about the
didn't come.
fantastic sidewalks we're getting. But I do think, I'm taking advantage of the fact that Tina's here.
Really?
That if we were able to expand or have less bus stops, so the kids have to maybe walk a little bit to get them, then they have less stopping. Because it's really takes a full minute to stop, get the kids on, every time you stop, it adds another
There's no
minute.
question that the way the software, and from our experience, it's 30 seconds is what we plan on for each stop. So,
Well, if the
you're assuming
child's running
it's still-
down-
it's just for the, that's just for the bus,
That's
not for the
right.
kids.
No, the kids are.
It's just to slow the bus
Some of them
down,
are
stop
just
the bus, open the door, close the door, forget kids, start
right.
the bus back up, that's
Yep.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
The kids getting in is a different time.
Yes, yes.
For each kid.
Some of them are just running to grab it, and
There's
others
no
are like,
question.
I gotta tie my shoe before I get onto the bus. and-
But I will say is that I was driving through Ashland one morning, because I just drive randomly through towns in the morning. Of course. And so I was driving through Ashland one morning at a little bit before 7, probably about 10 of 7, quarter of 7, and they were picking up their upper elementary school children, because I saw a friend of mine who lives in Ashland at the bus stop with his child. And needless to say, there was plenty of them. So we're not unique in this way.
Right.
And I do know which school is it that dismisses their lower elementary at 3:30? Oh, I saw that the other
Wayland?
day.
Wayland.
Is Wayland 3:30? Okay, thank you. I guess you and I will look at the same thing. But, again, we're not in the extremes with regards to other communities. We're not on our times. I mean, the question, I think, ultimately is, what are we trying to accomplish and where are we trying to get with this? And, there's always things happening in transportation. I mean, today we just submitted I agreed to participate in a group, a number of school districts in the Metro West, headed by Needham. We're applying for a grant to electrify all the buses. Now granted, it means Flag Field is gone. Let me just get that right up front, because I need flat land to put charging stations on.
Yeah.
And I found out today that each one of the buses has 10 tons of batteries on it. Culverts, get ready. But I'm saying is that there's things that are always moving. I don't know how much any improvements in traffic or things like that are going to make outside of us adding a bus lane that can go just exclusively in one direction, say, or something. And I don't think we're widening Washington Street. We're not widening Washington Street, are you? Okay. So since we're not widening Washington Street, that's the only thing that's going to help us at this stage, because truthfully, that's our biggest hang-up, besides the bus stops every 20 feet in some runs.
No, but it's Washington Street, that's the,
It's the bottleneck.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the bottleneck. I'll be honest with you, the situation here outside of Holliston and Highland actually hasn't been as bad as I thought.
Agreed.
Sometimes it's actually been better than it used to be. I'm being perfectly honest as somebody who only travels it 6 or 7 times a day.
Right.
thank you.
It's actually been worse in the evening.
Yes, the evening is worse,
yeah.
but again, outside of
that's not
school
school
time,
hours,
we
so
don't
we don't care.
We don't care. 30 minutes, cover everybody.
No, but
sad
initially
people
it was a nightmare.
Right.
Initially, I was adding on 10, 15 minutes.
Right, but again, that was probably due to the Washington Street project.
Right.
That everybody
Right.
was then going up Highland Street. People have gone back to their more normal routines now. So again, it actually hasn't been bad. The mornings have had their normal backups, but it's been more like their normal backups. So
I will report that back. Thank
you
you
know,
for that feedback.
it's now it could change drastically in a moment, but I'm just saying, as of now, with Washington Street open, I have not seen it have a negative effect. So.
Yeah.
But regardless, we need to keep.
I'm not saying we should bail. I'm just saying that I think the challenges for trying to figure out if there's anything we do to improve the school start time situation. If we're going to try to do it drastically, that's a very big hurdle, and I just don't know if we're going to get there. To do little tweaks that may help us along on some of these things, to free up Miller a little bit, to free up Placentino, to maneuver 3, 4, 5 minutes in one place or the other, sure, that's possible. That's possible.
But we agreed we're going to still look into it.
So I'm not, well, it's not my committee, so I serve at your pleasure.
I think from the
Unique in that way.
from the perspective of, environmental, sustainable, wanting more kids to be on the bus, right? That would be the goal, is to have more people on the bus, have less people in the pickup loops, that kind of thing. This has to be our goal, and this has to be something that we continue to work on, is that if we're going to tell people, like, the bus, we got to get them there on time, not after the bell. And that's on us to figure out how to do that.
Propose free busing. Get it paid for.
I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, but if we can't get the buses there on time already, putting more kids on the bus is going to exacerbate that, right? Because as you just said, getting kids on the bus and waiting for them to tie their shoes before they get on is more minutes.
More than 30 seconds.
More than 30 seconds. So that's where we are as a
And then in
committee.
the winter, having them walk like even longer to get to further bus stands is not going to resolve all the
Right, but
issues
if we have
there.
more kids on buses, then we have less kids being driven to school, so there's less traffic on the
I
road.
disagree with that a little bit, only because I'm aware of multiple families where one child takes the bus and the other child does not, and they might even go to the same school. No, I'm serious.
Yourself?
No. Yes, I drive one to the high school, one to the middle school. But no, I seriously, I am aware of many families where one kid is taking the bus and the other is not. And so I was going to say, the challenge is to get, either you get on the bus or you don't. I'm concerned, I don't think people are going to move towards putting their kids on the buses when.
And I also think that you have people that sign up for bus 5 days a week, but they might only take it 2 mornings a week, and
Right.
sometimes drive, that's another issue you run into,
Yeah, just because you have a bus pass, especially if it's free, doesn't mean you take the bus.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? That's, yeah. Anyhow.
And it's hard to convince more people to go on the bus because the kids being driven are not the ones who are late. Buses are late.
The buses are
Right, so the
Right.
kids who are being driven are there on time.
Well, some are late,
I
just
mean-
because that's why they're not getting on the bus.
Right, right, but it's still faster to drive. than it is to- So anyway, that's where we are, just trying to figure out what's next now that we've done the sort of needs assessment piece. Where do we go? And we have a meeting that we're in the midst of planning, but there's some things that we're talking about, and there's some, Ashland has an interesting model of how they do their traffic control and that kind of stuff. So hopefully at the next meeting we'll have an update.
Great.
Okay, old business. Now we can talk about superintendent's goals.
Yeah, we are voting on it, right?
We are voting on it. Does
Yes.
anybody have any further discussion or questions or comments? Assuming that you've done these beforehand, because that was what we had talked about last time, which was talking about the goals and whatnot with Susan before. But does anybody have anything they'd like to say, add? Susan, anything you want to say or add?
I'm good.
Move to approve superintendent's goals as presented previously.
Moved by Cynthia, seconded by Minnie. All in favor? Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, new business. We've already done the overnight field trip. The SOI.
So as you already have heard us talk about before, the SOI process is, I got an email that it's opening as well, but January 13th is when the process opens. We've had some questions from the town as to our next steps, so we are going to be having a meeting, just a in-house meeting with Travis to kind of talk about strategies, and with, I forget who else.
Ben Sparrow.
Ben, just to kind of talk about strategies moving forward as we try to think about what's the best for the town. We also, you'll see further down, I'm going to tie them together, feasibility study. One of the things that we're struggling with is while our building has certain needs, the projects that have been getting approved have more significant needs, such as enrollment bursting at the seams or walls falling down. Ours is fairly well maintained. We have a lot of leaks. That's been a concern of mine lately, particularly with this rainy weather, we've had puddles in the hallways. I'm worried about students falling or staff falling. That's still not a one that will sell well, even though we can take pictures of that and demonstrate that. So without being able to come up with a better strategy, we're struggling to get moved up because they've been cutting back on how many projects they're doing. The money is only spread so far, and the projects are costing that much more, so less buildings are getting it. So therefore, you're getting the most impacted buildings, I guess is the best, or the impacted projects are getting moved forward. So I can't tell you where this will go. The feasibility study, though, that we are thinking about, the facility study that we're thinking about right now is it's probably time for us to consider putting a small amount of money out, up to $60,000, is that what we talked about?
Something like that, yeah.
Potentially $60,000, and we could use some of our one-time funds. This is a good use of that money that we have those one-time funds for, and have a facility study done that would give us some additional data that maybe would help us with the SOI process, and/or if we don't get approved for a feasibility study, it would also give us data to provide the town, should the town say, we can't wait any longer, what would be our other options, kind of thing. Give us an overview. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, but that's why I wanted to tie the two together.
Yeah, there's a vendor who I've been familiar with for a number of years who performs these services as their business, an architectural firm that works on schools all the time. And they've gotten, probably more than a decade ago, they got into the business of doing this. So I've started a conversation with him, and actually he's familiar with the Adams Middle School. He worked on a project there, and a person who used to be in his firm worked on the project there in the 1954, 56 when it opened up. So, but again, he has familiarity with Holliston. He would help me put together some specifications. I can go out and get 3 quotes, and we'll take it from there. So that's, we've started that conversation. So,
Like quotes on what? Like, can you be a little more specific? on
what he would do basically is besides looking at the age of the equipment, say a lot of these studies just looks at, that light was put out in 2000, it's going to last till 2022. Well, you don't know how long that light's going to last, and a lot of them don't get into the actual how it's running, how well it's running, do testing on it, et cetera, et cetera. This organization does. They go that extra step so that they're not just giving you the expiration date, which it may be good or maybe, it's more like a Best Buy date as opposed to an expiration date is what they're giving you. We need to know really in what shape it's in. And that's the difference. I can go out and date anything. Just got to look at the specifications, go dig up the old files, and here's this date, here's that date, and take 2 days to do that, or 2 weeks to do it probably. But I can do that. What they're going going to do is do a more in-depth thing on the actual functionality of things. So, that's a piece, and he'd actually have some ballpark pricing on it, et cetera, from his experience. So this is like that intermediate phase between a true feasibility study, say, and what we have now, which is we can date things as opposed to really knowing when something is going to actually, or how much life still is left in something. So that's, I think that's a great next step for us in this process, because we're getting nowhere through the SOI process with regards to moving us along.
And did you share that with Travis and Ben?
We've talked a little bit about that. We haven't had an actual sit-down yet, because, when we have the sit-down, it's the next week, the week after. It's in the next 2 weeks, I know that.
You haven't had it yet?
We haven't had that.
We did mention to Travis that this is a route we may want to take.
Right.
And then when we meet with the group.
Right, and so again, it's just,
And I'm saying that
No.
because I know that it's, it's a school building, school committee, authority, what have you. But being on the Envisioning Future Holliston Committee, you just want to look at a more holistic approach, and are we working with the town to, I just want to make sure that Travis and Ben are talking, like understanding what we're doing as well, because it could affect future.
I mean, it's a municipal building at the end of the day, right?
Right.
The other thing is too, and tell me, I'm going to try to say this the way you explained it to me, but hopefully I say it right. When you think of like the facility study, and Keith was saying it's not just looking at the building, it's the building and its functionality, but it's also how, educationally, how does it enhance the learning atmosphere? Not just how old is the wall, how old is the floor, how well can this space be used for learning? How well is the outside used for learning? So it's not just, is this an okay building? Check.
Right.
It's are we engaging in the best practices that we know from educational research of the way that the building is actually functioning for the kids, not just functioning as a building.
And I think from an equity standpoint, the question is, how do we compete with other towns as well, right? So when you're seeing these wonderful buildings going up that have educational access for multiple opportunities that we can't do here, while we do a great job with what we do, there are limitations. So if we do want to continue to be competitive, then we have to have the state-of-the-art, or close to it, of some of the things that other towns might be offering. You can't do that in a building of this age and configuration.
True, but also, because I had this discussion over the holidays, someone said, well, we look at Hopkinton. And I said, I wouldn't look at Hopkinton. Yes, they have great system. They're overcrowded. I wouldn't send my kids there if you paid me. They're overcrowded right now.
That's
So
one of
if
the
they're
reasons they
saying,
got approved.
you have
that's why
to.
that's right.
That's what I'm saying.
Projects in the last 6 or 7 go-rounds, so yeah.
So, it isn't necessarily always the state-of-the-art building either.
It's a combination, but having and equitable opportunities for students is where I come from.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was really my point, was that it says, on the agenda, it says facility study, but it's more like a functionality study.
Yeah.
Along with the actual
And this is
structure.
the
Did I do that
advantage of
okay?
this particular group, is that, again, he's been doing this in schools for years. He
Right.
will identify that we have our science labs are all inside classrooms. He will identify that,
Right.
and what a bad space that is for learning.
And so the purpose would be to then use the results, which we assume are going to say you need a new high school,
We
to
would
be more
basically,
likely to get the support.
what has happened in other districts is that what they have actually done is included his facility assessment as part of their SOI. Because what it does, and he said, it's not granted, he's selling his wares, it's not going to, it's, you need undercoating with that. But he said that by including that, it really shows that we are serious about being involved in this project. And if we can move ourselves forward 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots on the list by doing this, when they start drawing that line on affordability, if the line goes just underneath us as opposed to just above us, it's a worthwhile thing to do.
It shows commitment.
So hopefully it'll help me write the application better. We can have more data to put in there, more specific data. But then also, should we not get approved next year, then it's also data for the town to consider that, okay, now we have a better sense of what the needs are. How do we want to proceed in the absence of getting MSBA, if that's the case?
No, I absolutely.
Yeah,
So are
same
you
here.
looking for approval for this?
Nope.
Okay.
Do we,
That I'll put my name behind.
so are we doing a vote on?
No.
No,
right?
that was just a.
No, we're not looking for you to come up with additional funds. We're going to use some of our existing grant funds.
Thank you.
Great.
Good job, Keith.
There is no newsletter this time. As of information, there are minutes for the budget subcommittee. Our next meeting, anything else? Any other points of information? Our next meeting is the 19th. I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn open session, go to executive session to conduct contract negotiations with the non-union personnel from which we shall not return.
Moved by Stacy.
Moved by Stacy.
Second.
By Minnie. Roll call vote. Mrs. Stevenick.
Yes.
I almost called you Miss Amanda. That's my daughter's dance teacher. Sorry, it's not even 10 o'clock. Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Myself, Dr. Sward, yes. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for your presentations and for coming. And we're going to go over to that little corner over there.
Thank you.